Hey guys, this is Matt Baldoni here with another episode of Asshole Consulting, or another episode of an offshoot of Asshole Consulting, often referred to as Asshole Musician. Alright, so my dear friend Aaron Clary came to me recently and said that a musician had reached out to him with a piece of music for me to evaluate. So I got electronically introduced to this gentleman. I'm going to keep his name out of this because, you know, just as a respect for privacy. I never asked him if he wanted his name revealed, okay? But he does something other than music for a living. I think it's related to mathematics. But he was a music major in college for a little while, and he considers himself a hobby level composer or songwriter, whatever you I'm not sure how he'd want to be referred of those two terms. So what he did was send me a piece of music that I went ahead and read and kind of learned, and he's asking me to evaluate it. So to be honest, this he calls it young bass guitar idea, and it's written in bass clef, which is traditionally not how guitar music is written, at least standard guitar music is written, but I can read in bass clef well enough, so that's fine. Let's see, this is going to get deep into the music geek stuff, so if that's not your thing or you're not curious about it, I'd suggest taking a hike at this point. But it's, I don't know, roughly 8 or 10 or 11 measures worth of music. He has a very clearly written melody, but and a tempo indication of 120 beats per minute, and no key signature, which I'm assuming he just means it to be in C, since the first note is an A natural and the last note is a C natural, or excuse me, an E natural. I'm assuming through deductive musician reasoning that this is somewhere around A minor as a home key. So the other thing that he told me was that it either felt like surf rock to him, or it felt like something along the lines of Smoke on the Water, but with a guitar sound not that overdriven. That's what he asked me, or what he indicated to me. Now, I interpret people's music all the time, and I have a loyalty to what the composer wants, no matter who it is. So I'm going to play you just the first few measures of this. With the guitar sound he kind of asked for, which is a lightly overdriven Smoke on the Water guitar sound. Right? That seems okay to me, right? Okay, so I'm going to count it off, right? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the first 6 measures for a total of 7, 8, 9, 10 measures. So that's a little over half that piece of music. Now what you heard is just a melodic line by itself. He calls this like some kind of a bass guitar solo. Alright? Well, I don't like it by itself, so I have set up my looping device and I'm going to add some accompaniment. I have no idea what chord changes he wants. All I know is this thing is somewhere around C or A. So I came up with a riff that is basically in the key of A minor, and with an A power chord and a G power chord in it, and that seemed okay to me. So I'm going to play that loop, and I'm going to play his piece of music over the loop. Okay. 1, 2, here we go. Okay, that's it. That's my one chord vamp that I created with his notes on top of it. So, the title of this, so far as it is right now, is Young Bass Guitar Idea, and I'm going to leave the composer's name out of it. All right, so he was wanting me to come up with something. He wanted me to, first of all, evaluate this piece of music, so I'll do that in a second. He also wanted me to come up with some sort of accompaniment for it. So I did that, right? I have no idea what he wants, but that's all I'm going to do for the moment. If he wants any more than that, unfortunately, he is asking me to write his song for him, and that's not something I do. Okay? Now, let me also elaborate on that particular point. I am not a songwriter. I have never put out an original album. I have no desire to. It seems like a stupid business proposition to me. Here's the deal. Our buddy Aaron is an economist, so I'm gonna think about it in his terms and put it to you this way. If I play songs other people like, I can get money right now. Right now. Okay? Because other people know those songs and they like those songs and they're willing to fucking pay me to play it. Alright? If I play my own music, or even this gentleman's music, with all due respect, of course, no one knows this. So, if you write music, you will have to then market that music and get somebody, or a lot of people, to know what it was, so that then you, in turn, can make money for it. So, I don't do that. I want my money now. So, and I don't really have anything artistically to say like this gentleman does. He obviously has some pretty cool ideas here. I've played you the piece of music, so if you want to let me know, let Aaron know, let him know in the comments below what you think, okay? But these are his notes on this piece of paper. I have only added a chordal accompaniment, which, if this does turn into a song, would actually entitle me to 50% of the royalties in the publishing that would come from it. But my libertarian ideology doesn't really emphasize intellectual property that much. I don't have much of a belief in it. So, but that's an item for another time. If you guys want to ask me about that, ask me below, and I'm happy to explain. Okay, so let's get to this gentleman's questions. He says, play the guitar solo. I did that. Comment on if this guitar solo idea is useful. If you think it's useful or not, comment below. Do I think it's useful? I don't know what you want to use it for. If he gave me this and told me to go put it into my career someplace, I wouldn't really know what to use it for. He says it's a bass guitar idea. There are a bunch of solo electric bassists out there. Brian Bromberg comes to mind, Victor Wooten comes to mind, who play solo bass music. Maybe when this is completed, you could submit it to one of those guys who might be willing to perform it for you. 11 measures, in my opinion, is not a complete piece of music. It's not a complete piece of music. There's no definitive form here, like this is the verse and this is the chorus. Now, okay, also, I'm looking at this through the lens of commercial music and through popular music. One, because that's what I do for a living, and this gentleman asked me for my expertise. Two, from a classical music perspective, I actually did study classical guitar in college. That's what my degree is in, but it's been all but professionally useless for me personally, as was most of music academia. And I say that having been a collegiate level student and collegiate level professor in music before, which is why I don't do those two things anymore. All right, so that being said, 11 measures, I don't think, in my opinion, if you're asking for my evaluation, is enough information to give us a complete piece of music. I also don't have enough information on this 11 measures to do anything with it. Later on, when he first sent this to me, he just sent me the notes. He just sent me the notes on the staff, which is fine. But but there was no style indication, there was no tempo indication, there was no key signature, there was no idea of what, if I saw this on a gig, if somebody put this on my music stand before we started the tune, I'd have to ask a few questions, like, well, what, I mean, electric or acoustic guitar, is there a singer I'm accompanying, what is this line I'm playing, is it the main melody, is it a counter melody to a main melody, what is this, what style of music is it, you know? So I asked some of those questions, and he answered some of them for me, and I did the best I could with the information we had compiled together. So, comment on if this guitar solo idea is useful. Not for me. I can't do anything with it. I've done all I can do with it at the moment. Until you give me more information, that's about all I'm willing to do. This gentleman also says, I used to be a music composition major, but switched my major to mathematics. From your experience, what usually happens to music composition majors after they finish their bachelor's degree? I don't know. If there are any indication of what happens to other specific fields within the major of music, if that's any indication, most of them don't do anything, okay? I went to school, I got a bachelor's degree, and I dropped out of grad school. I dropped out because I was working, I was gigging, so... but I did get my bachelor's. I went to my bachelor's college in California with about 550 music majors, okay? They majored in everything from music education to composition to performance like me to music therapy to all kinds of different things, jazz improvisation, blah, 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 whatever else. Okay, we are now in the age of social media for the better part of a decade and then some. Everybody knows what everybody's doing, okay? We all know what our high school friends are doing and our college friends are doing and our current friends are doing, whatever. Okay, most of the people that I went to music school with, both in grad school and in undergrad school, aren't making a living in the music business. I can probably count, other than me, of all the guys I went to school with, I can probably count on maybe two hands if I'm lucky, the people who are actually making a living as live performers. Okay? Now, I don't count being a music teacher as being as making a real living in music. I personally don't count that. Taking a make-work government job for a make-work government indoctrinational institution, to me, is not really working for a living, okay? I make my living in the freelance market of musicians in a major entertainment center of the Western world, okay? There's nowhere where competition is more fierce for jobs that I get. There's nowhere where there are more talented musicians all looking for work. That is a living in the music business. If you can do that, what I do, you've already beaten the odds, which I have, okay? So, most of the composition majors and other music majors, to answer this man's question, are not making a living in the music business. I do know professional songwriters and I do know professional composers. They write for film, they write for TV. I know another guy who's a staff writer in Nashville. He sells songs to up-and-coming country artists or even really established country artists, and he seems to do very well. I'm happy for him. But again, I only know this as an observer. I'm not a songwriter myself. Songwriters and artists hire me to interpret their music, okay? So, he asked me what happens to after they finish their degree. In my experience, mostly nothing, okay? If I get song or other ideas, how can I get those ideas to bands that might be interested in using them? Okay, there are all kinds of different online services and programs. Even Google has one that can try, and of course for a fee, can try, or a percentage of the royalties that may or may not come, that can try and place your songs with people who might want to sing them or record them or whatever else. I don't really do that, but I do know people who do. In my experience, the people who do, it's no different than writers of prose or writers of fiction. They have to write and write and write and write and write, and they write 1,000 songs, and maybe a small percentage of them actually get placed with someone who's gonna make them financially viable for them. Okay. the best way to get your songs to musicians is to go out and meet some musicians. Go out where you live, find where there are musicians out playing, and hand them your music and say, here, I want you to try playing my song. Tell me if you like it. If you like it, maybe you can put it in your act, you know? And if you keep getting the word no, that means your songs suck. Okay? If I have only a short idea, like this guitar solo idea, for example, how can I develop it into a full song? Well, the next step I would take is to decide on some harmony. Most music has 3 elements in it, and most of us know this. Melody, harmony, and rhythm. Melody you have. Rhythm you kind of have. The melody has a rhythm. The next is harmony. Figure out some chord changes that you think would work and from a music theory perspective would actually make sense. For example, you have certain passing tones like an E flat and also a B flat against, say, an A minor chord or an E7 chord or a G major chord. Those tones, if there was emphasis put on them, wouldn't exactly work, okay? But if you're just passing through, I'm sure they're fine. All right, so work on harmony next and give us a better idea of the rhythmic feel and style that you would want. Okay, so he indicated since it's an A minor, there would be no sharps or flats in the key signature. Also, the time signature is 4/4, although where beat 1 occurs might be different than what I have written. I don't know what that means. Where 1 is where 1 is. 1 is never on 3, 1 is never on 2. Where 1, so much of my fucking life has been spent finding 1, okay? And I don't lose it that easily once I've found it. 1 is on 1. It seems to be pretty clear to me. Okay. Bass guitar solo with backing drums is what he hears in his head. Okay, well then come up with a drum part and program it yourself. You can do that very easily in something like GarageBand in your computer. All right? It's not remarkable, just 8 notes with 2 lower 8s followed by 2 top hat 8s. Okay, well, he rather than write out, notate the drum part, he explained the drum part to me. You know, a drummer would understand that. I don't want to pay extra to have you add a drum solo on it. Good, because I don't want to do it. If you have a drum backing, you can use that so long as you don't charge extra for me. Well, I don't. All right. I already know about form. My problem is I can think of example a chorus part, but once I have that, how do I come up with a verse? Or more specifically, what would be some ways this particular bass solo can be extended into a 3 or song? I don't know exactly what that means. It might be a typo. Okay, well, this is your verse melody, what you've sent me. Then you need to come up with some lyrics that would indicate that it would be a verse, and then you need to sing them. Now, if this is instrumental music, okay, first of all, if you're actually writing instrumental music, you're going to have a lot less people interested in your music. The most popular instrumental music in the world right now is actually smooth jazz. So, if this is a smooth jazz song, maybe it sounds like this. Let's try this. That would be the first measure or 2 of his piece of music played in like a smooth jazz style. And I'm just spitballing here and pulling stuff out of my ass. All right? So I think I've covered just about everything that he wanted in this particular video. So I would like to let the public decide whether they think this is a good piece of music or not. So comment below. If this gentleman wishes to make his information public and any of you are actually interested in his compositions, or if there are any musicians or recording artists or singers or songwriters that want to collaborate with this guy, I will make his information public. But anyhow, I hope that does it, and toodles.